Hello, everybody. Welcome along to the Event Industry News podcast. My name is James Dixon. I'm wishing everybody a very good morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever or wherever you join us today from. And a warm welcome to our guest today. Neil Mortimer joins us today. And I'm not going to tell you what Neil does or where he's from, because that is something that I think, Neil, welcome to the show, first of all.
Thanks, James. Great to be here.
That's something that I think that you are far better placed to do, because there's been some exciting news in the last couple of weeks for Neil and some colleagues of him. And Neil, over to you. Tell us what's happened just in the last couple of weeks and what's been going on in your world.
Yeah, thanks, James. Yeah, delighted to announce the other day that we have launched our new agency, Future Live today. It's been a year in the making of R&D and traveling the world and going to do a full audit of events globally to understand kind of where things are currently and what's next. What does the new era of events look like, and how is this world of technology integrating into them? And so we've launched a new agency to fulfill this evolving requirement that clients have to build technology ecosystems and inevitably increase the value of events for attendees and for organisers and for clients. And so our new agency is looking at fulfilling this new remit.
And it's a very focused remit. You and I were talking off air prior to hitting record on today's episode about what the agency is going to do and what Future Live has been set up to do. And as you point out, it's providing a very focused offering that thus far has essentially, I suppose, been rolled into the offerings of other agencies. You know, agencies have adopted technology, they've integrated it into what they do as a broader offering, but this is now something, by the sounds of things, that you guys are going to be doing that will specifically look at the role data integration technology plays within the design of events and how you can work with your clients to actually help them understand what they can do with it.
Yeah, certainly. I think that I think it obviously sort of rolled into events as if it was another line item on the budget. You know, you've got AV and then you've got event technology, and therefore it was in the land of events picked up by that overall executive producer that sits agency side, or that in-house event client team, or if it's event organizer, that kind of event director, and it's a massive beast, and obviously we believe it requires a dedicated set of skills and a dedicated set of kind of objectives that sit around that are far and wide reaching. And there's a complex world to navigate in event tech. There's a complex world to navigate in MarTech, in marketing technology across the board. And we believe that clients, event organizers, even your traditional event agencies, they need that support to be able to make those decisions that are going to be right, instead of making decisions that seem straightforward at the time but actually aren't the best decisions from them, both a financial sense but also a sense of actually, you know, the effectiveness of what they're purchasing. And so, you know, we really sit there to help them and to educate them and to bring best-in-class solutions into an ecosystem environment that allows them to be able to not have 25 different data silos or 3 different data silos of one piece of technology doing one thing, but actually start to bring these technologies together. So really clients are just focused on their main objectives of what they want to get out of integrating event technology, and we can get really stuck into helping them to pick each one of these event technologies that are best suited.
If you don't mind, I wouldn't mind sort of taking a step back, really, just to paint a really clear picture for the people tuning into today's podcast of why and how and the reasons behind Future Live actually, you know, being born as an organization. You mentioned that there's been a lot of R&D. There's been a year-long process, and I would hazard a guess that it's probably even beyond a year with ideas like this. But give us a little bit of your own sort of professional background and how it led to the actual launch of this agency as we sit here today.
I think that it's twofold, really. I think that clients, in particular, that we speak to, that sit in in-house teams. If you go past the let's say the big tech businesses of this world, a company like Amazon or AWS, you look at how many people work in event technology for them, and they must have probably 25 people that sit in Seattle that work in they're just purely analysts, event technologists, event technology teams. And businesses like Microsoft, IBM, they've also real focus on it, and actually utilizing their own technology to make this side of events work, and for it to integrate into their wider marketing technology stack. But outside of that type of business, event teams that sit client side are generally quite small, and they are, there's that statistic that event planning is one of the most stressful jobs in the world. And that's because your remit is already huge. Your remit is very demanding, and you've got a lot of different things to have to get right. And to take on the responsibility of the data strategy and the event technology decision and building that tech ecosystem when you're a small team is very difficult. And so we've identified that there needs to be support for those in-house teams. Mm-hmm. And equally, I think that there's definitely been some examples of event agencies who've picked up this new remit of event technology and really run with it. But on the whole, your traditional event producer is not a data-driven technology specialist, and therefore they are learning on the job. And I think you can say that everybody's learning on the job to a certain extent with this, because it's all new. Yeah. But there's a definite requirement for this new specialist, and so we believe there's a role that sits to understand this world in a deep dive and advise clients on not only what technologies they should use, and not only how to configure those technologies and how to deploy them on site to make sure that they run smoothly. All of those are very important factors, but I think we've got to look at this entire holistic approach of what is your data-driven strategy from word go. Why are you doing this? It's not about we need an app, let's just get an app. It's like, what does that app do? Why are you specifically bringing that to the table? And then right the way through to the analytics piece. And the analytics piece is not a deck that's got 25 slides on it that overloads clients with charts about what people have been doing on the whole and who went to what session, but really goes back to that data-driven strategy, goes back to those overall objectives of why you're doing the event in the first place, and really is critically analysing the what we call the metrics that matter for the client at the end. So they've got an ability to be able to build a new set of tools around their face-to-face and events that are actually going to drive increased value, and they're going to be able to measure that. And so we see that as a complete holistic set of services that we need to assist our end clients with.
Yeah. Do you sense a certain element of peer pressure when it comes to the clients that you've worked with, where there are so many new technologies that have come to market in the last few years that are available to event organisers, that there's almost a pressure on them to deploy them, because I think, well, everybody else is doing this, and this, we need to get that in as well, without maybe fully understanding what each thing can do for them, without fully understanding what utilizing multiple platforms may be able to deliver for them as a wider opportunity. And this is perhaps where you guys are really going to be able to come in, is to be able to actually say to them, you don't necessarily need all of it. You might only need certain elements of it. You might only need this, and this. I personally get the sense that there are some organisers out there who have felt almost pressured into bringing in tech when they don't really fully understand what it is, and it might not even be relevant to what they're doing.
I think there's a lot of pressure on event teams from CMO down that says ROI. We need to know what the ROI is of this channel. It's been a black hole of ROI for forever long. And the CMO in 2019 is a digital marketer, and he is used to making decisions based on results versus spend. And he's no longer, or she is no longer happy with just putting a budget across to be able to yeah, we know events work, we don't know why, hit and hope, and hopefully it will come off. There's a lot of pressure for them, and technology is one of the answers to answering that ROI equation. And so some event organisers, I think we see this like split, this 50-50 split, where you've got 50% of the market throwing everything they can into it and getting every tool that they potentially can get. And then you get another 50% who are very, very, very risk averse in doing that, because it's affecting the beautiful magic of face-to-face. And they feel that technology gets in the way of face-to-face engagement. And therefore there's a huge resistance across sort of 50% of the market to event technology as a whole. And I think that it's a hugely, increasingly difficult world to navigate through, and they need advice to make sure that they're focusing on what I always term as best-in-class event technologies. I think we've seen a new era of event technology companies coming through in recent years that are really understanding human-centric approaches to technology that sit in the hands of human beings who, you know, let's face it, are very quick to not embrace something when they're definitely in a time-sensitive environment of an event. If as soon as you pick an app up and it doesn't do what you want it to do immediately, a lot of people will just put that down. And so we believe there's an opportunity there to bring these best-in-class solutions to the table that are advising clients on what best to use.
And it's interesting you raise that point, because I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on testing and development of new technologies, because I've personally had experiences where I've utilized a platform and there are issues with it. You know, fundamentally, what they claim to offer is potentially solving a really critical problem, and the premise of what they're offering is fantastic, but it's not quite ready yet, and it's not quite ready to do exactly what it needs to do without falling over occasionally. And I'm curious to know what your own experiences are in terms of testing stuff. You presumably will have had to have gone through loads and loads of different platforms, tech providers, to be able to establish what you consider to be best in class and what might not be quite ready yet for the level of which your clients are operating.
I think it's a hugely valid point. I think events, you know, I mentioned risk averse clients earlier, and I think that, you know, the challenge of events are that they are one-offs, or they're once a year, let's say. You don't get an environment like retail, for example, that says, right, well, it's not going to work for a week. We know that. We're just going to, but in a week, we'll sort out the teething problems and we'll get it right. That world doesn't exist in events. And so therefore, there has to be this reliability from a client that it works and that it's perfect, because if it isn't, then that negatively affects the overall experience of a very expensive event that they're hosting. And we've seen it happen, right? And we've all been at events where it hasn't worked. My big thing is that we only work with technology that's built, tried and tested at scale. Now, I believe that you don't have to use it yourself to be able to know that it works, because you have to observe it working in other environments, and the suppliers that you work with have got to have done it and improved it before you do it. Now that means that you're not on the front end of being innovating. You're not the earliest adopter of this stuff. I don't believe you need to be the earliest adopter of this stuff. The better place to be is to be in that early majority who after the guinea pig phase, they've got ironed out any issues, and you're then adopting this built, tried and tested technology into your event to allow you to do it. So that's my methodology on that. That doesn't mean that we're not willing to try things, but wherever we would try things that are new, we'd always have a plan B, a plan C, a plan D after that, and acknowledge that this is a risk with a client, but generally speaking, I think that the technologies that I'm talking about, that I'm most excited about, are very innovative, but they have also done that guinea pig phase already, and that's when I'm interested.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, on a personal level, I'd concur with that. You know, as I said, I've seen examples of fantastic ideas, technology with a great premise where they have identified a problem, but I understand the need sometimes with investors and people, you know, they want to get it to market as soon as possible, but bringing something to market that could then fall over or not do exactly what you said it's going to do, or that hasn't been researched properly and hasn't had event people look at it in depth to identify what they actually need from it, is going to do you more damage in the long term. And you know, as an aside, any sort of tech providers maybe listening to this show today, if you are working on new stuff, you know, get it tested, put it in the hands of people who organize events and say, look, just work your way through this for me, would you? Pick up any flaws, pick up any issues, come back to me, and then bring it to market. I think
Yeah, certainly. I think that the absolute key is it's like a lot of products and services in this world, but it really is important that you're a human being who's time sensitive, who wants to have a piece of technology in their hand that works like their favorite app on their phone, or works as well as their favorite piece of technology that they use in the real world. They're not going to embrace something that has that degree of complexity, and that's why we really focus on this human-centric approach to all technologies in the face-to-face environment. And yeah, event technology, it's a real tricky situation for innovators within this space, because we've got an environment where people don't want to take risks, but you've got to start somewhere, and that's the challenge. But that's the challenge that's definitely worth taking if you believe you've got the right new product to bring to the market.
Yeah. So something that I wanted to ask you, I suppose, is to ask your professional opinion of. It's when we ask the question, how will tech impact experiences in the future and event experiences in the future? It occurred to me just very recently that we talk a lot about the tech that's driving the industry, the tech that the industry can use that will ultimately shape it and drive itself going forward. But there's a flip side to that I hadn't really identified until recently, which is the tech that consumers are using and how consumers use technology, which ultimately drives event experiences as well. And I've got a specific point of reference for that I'll put to you. Samsung KX in London. Did a big launch recently. One of the sort of things that they did there was they built a vertical stage for the live entertainment that they had there, and it was built specifically because they identified people would be watching the entertainment with their phones vertically in the air like that, taking portrait video, portrait pictures for Instagram, etc., and they thought, hold on, let's deliver a stage that fits perfectly into the framing that they're going to have on their phones. And that to me is an example of the reverse side of it. It's the technology that consumers are now up to speed with, driving how that particular event was shaped and delivered. And I was curious to ask you today, you know, what your thoughts are on that, and how the consumer tech will ultimately drive the sort of advice and decisions that you're going to help your clients make.
I think, I think that was a pretty cool event, and that store is actually very retail experiential, done very well. I went down there recently and I was very impressed with it. Do I think they're going to redesign the pyramid stage at Glastonbury to fit an iPhone layout? No, but the message around what you're getting at there is absolutely critical. I think that you have to acknowledge that if you're building anything that human beings are going to be interacting with, albeit that an app or a piece of interactive technology or an interactive experience, or I think that's one of the reasons why we've seen a lot of the VR stuff not really massively resonate, because human beings, although they like putting it on to start with, it's not a natural thing for them to want to do for a long period of time. And that's a good example of any piece of technology. You have to have something that augments an experience. I won't name names of companies, but I think there's a fantastic example of how this is really working by taking matchmaking and from the world of online dating into a professional setting.
Yeah.
And you're taking that new evolved way of how people meet people on a romantic level and putting that into a professional environment, so people are used to that mechanic. And then you're taking that one step further by integrating it into their calendar functionality, which is pretty much how everyone's Bible, how they live their lives these days, and integrating it into their overall schedule for what they're doing outside of meetings. You're also looking at what sessions people are going to, what else they're doing at an event. You're taking a mechanic from the real world and you're putting that into a professional setting, so people can just run with it from word go. They know how that mechanism works, and that suits them perfectly. That's a perfect example for me of human-centric technology, by taking that into the event environment, improving the experience because you're meeting more people that you want to meet.
Yep.
You're having a more seamless experience, and also what it's doing off the back of that is, in synchronization, it's creating hugely valuable behavioral data that you're not kind of forcing out of the system. It's just there because you've got a great piece of technology augmenting a better customer, a better human experience, and therefore data falls out of that you can make use of. That's the kind of example of technology that's really well suited to this environment. And I believe that we're just at the beginning of that. We're just at the beginning of more examples like that technologies that are going to completely revolutionize face-to-face and improve it exponentially, rather than just kind of record it and just kind of like measure it and just measure what it currently is doing. We're in a position where we're going to see a new wave of technologies coming in that improve face-to-face experience and give us new valuable deep learned data off the back of it.
Sure. Going back to what we mentioned at the very start of today's episode, which is that the exciting launch just in the last couple of weeks of Future Live, this new agency that you've been part of creating and putting together. It might sound like a bit of an odd question, but have you been able to hit the ground running? You know, when you launched a couple of weeks ago, have you already got projects in there and people that you're going to be working with, or are you literally starting from ground zero? I would presume, you know, the answer is the first one, but tell us more about, you know, what the future already holds for a new agency.
Yeah, we're lucky that we actually had an inquiry come to us pre-launch, and that is assisting with the task of configuration and operation of event technology platforms in-house on client side, and that was fantastic because that immediately kind of it gave us some validation ahead of time. That wasn't the reason we were doing it. It was just the stars aligned and we got that opportunity and the phase that we're in now is very much looking at those conversations with clients to understand what is it that they want to solve first and foremost. It's not a case of getting everything done. It's a baby steps process here. We need to put the fundamental points in play, and so these conversations that we're having is really what we're focusing on at the moment, and working with these potential clients that we've got to be able to put together the right service that's going to help them out. And we can be versatile. We can offer in-housing for staff, so we can put those people actually working in the office of clients, or we can provide that as an agency service. We can provide a consultancy on strategy. We can provide data analysts. We can integrate technologies and do single point of reference in a proprietary open API cloud. So we've got these different functionalities that we can bring, and it's not one size fits all. It's a set of services that we can configure to suit a client's immediate need, and then we can build from there. So yeah, we've seen quite a bit of traction already, and we've got some exciting stuff. But it's obviously we're just launched, so we're going to have an interesting next sort of phase to see how this all evolves really.
And of course, it's come an exciting time, certainly for us at this end of things. You know, we've got Event Tech Live coming up very, very soon. And you're going to be there speaking. You're going to be delivering a session at Event Tech Live. But also underneath that roof, given everything that you've said about what the agency is going to be doing, it's an ideal opportunity for you to come in and find out about some of the new tech that's out there, meet some of those suppliers, talk to them face to face, and do a bit of learning of your own.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Event Tech Live is the leading event in EMEA for event technology, and I believe that the people that are there, the companies that are there, are what I'm referring to, best in class event technologies, and so yeah, it's a perfect environment for us to be in, and to have these discussions, and it's the format's fantastic, and you know we very much want to be a facilitator of this industry. We want to give clients the confidence and trust to use these best in class technologies to the extent of why they were built, not use 5% of their capabilities, use 100% of their abilities, and give clients the confidence to do that where it's appropriate to their overall objectives. Not use tech for tech's sake, but bring these amazing innovations to the end client, and give them the confidence to use them.
And I suppose one key bit of information for everybody who's listening today, and in light of the fact that we've spoken about Future Live and its new launch, if people want to find out what it is that you're doing, how to get in touch with you, you know, really find out, you know, in a bit more detail what you guys can offer, how do people get in touch?
Yeah, so LinkedIn is my favourite. So Neil Mortimer at Future Live Today, or you can get me on my email. That's neil@futurelivetoday.com.
Fantastic. And yeah, it sounds like a really exciting prospect. You know, I've had dealings with loads of agencies, and I've met loads of people from agencies over the last few years working in this industry. But as tech has evolved, and just being able to look at Event Tech Live and the first ever event technology awards that were run, you know, several years ago now, looking at how it's gone from what arguably was a really sort of fledgling niche industry of a handful of people to what it is today, and people really understanding that it's such an important part of live events, to now have agencies like your own who are dealing specifically in that subject matter and helping and advising clients on best practice and how they can go about delivering the best possible return, and looking at how the tech is going to shape their own events, I think is a good thing. So I guess on behalf of everybody, good luck with it, and we wish you well.
Yeah, and I'm just on that point. I don't think it's just this remit, right? I don't think it's just event technologies like a remit of events. I think this is the new events. This is the way that events are going to evolve. This is one in the same thing. Event technology and events this is how to do events. This is the new era of events, and so I don't see it as like event technology is a portion of an event. It is the event, and you have to think about the technology ecosystem at the point of conception, with the creative, with the experience, design, everything at once. And so yeah, that's the kind of way that we massively do it. So I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you, and you know, I'd love to check in later on down the line, and yeah, if anyone's coming when you come to Event Tech Live, I'm sure you'll come and have a conversation. I'll be there for 2 days, and I'm on stage speaking on Thursday morning.
Yeah, and if you hop onto the Event Tech Live website, go to the sessions tab, you'll be able to look at all the sessions that are on during Event Tech Live. You can search by speaker, by stage. So if you search for Neil's details on the Event Tech Live website, you'll be able to find out exactly when and where his session is. Go along and check that out. And that brings us nicely to the end of today's episode. Our thanks to Neil Mortimer, founder of Future Live. We'll see you very, very soon. I think probably when this goes out, probably next week, Neil, we'll be seeing each other at Event Tech Live itself. If you're watching today's podcast via eventindustrynews.com, have a little click around and look at some of the special features, supplements, all the latest news that's coming out on eventindustrynews.com. Obviously, the flip side to that is you can go over to your favorite podcast download platform and listen to audio versions of all of our podcasts on your commute to and from work, or when you're out and about doing your stuff. Brings us nicely to the end. Neil, thanks again. Good luck with everything. Hope to see you again in the future. Thanks to everybody tuning into today's podcast. My name's James Dixon.
Good luck on site, James.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, well, no luck needed. Just planning and some of the class-leading event technology to help us along the way.
Absolutely.
Thanks very much for listening, guys. We'll see you soon.